Well, it's Tuesday, and you all know what that means. You know what that means as well. New Japan continues with day 11 of the G1 Climax. I believe we are doing the A blocks? Let me look again. Yeah, A block. So we're going to focus always on A block. So I think right now we are halfway through the tournament. But we will see how things will progress. And then, of course, we are now entered the final week of the Great American Bash in NXT. As you know, we have three more championship matches taking place. We have the women's North American title. Kalani Jordan defends her belt against the very possessive Tatum Paxley. Ethan Page defends his belt against the man who most likely could defeat him, but we will see how that goes. Ora Mensa. And of course, MSK, as you know, they never lost their belts, but now they have a chance to reclaim them against a somewhat of a duo that you don't know for sure if they're on the same page or not. We're talking about Nathan Frazier and Axiom. So we will see how that rolls up. But first things first, as you know, we continue with more of Road to Korakuen by Gatoh Move. They just have their much recent show that took place back on July 31st, the final countdown. It's the final countdown. Yep. So we'll see how that rolls up. But we do know the main event is the Asian Dream Tag Team titles. Masahiro Takanashi and Emi Sakura defend their belts against one of Emi Sakura's proteges, Mizuki, and of course Saki from Colors. So we will see who will walk out on top. And then of course we cap up our episode with some news updates such as what events the promotions are throwing out, it's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling as we speak. So let's get ready for another episode of the Leaded Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Leaded Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions from not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos, such as, of course, the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information did not make it to this episode, I can either put it on the next episode or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, do Nagasaki Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introductions are set aside. I believe it's time to hammer time. So let's begin with our very first review, and I believe this is from Gatoh Move. I know, I'm such a dork. Well, it's because, come on, who names a show the final countdown and then you go to your head of that song by the band Europe and sing that song? if no one's gonna do it, might as well be me. So anyway, as you all know, Gatoh Move are doing the road to Korakuen. They're actually gonna do a Korakuen Hall the first time in many years, and of course they've been doing shows as long we go. And this time they made their stop in Shinkiba with one of their title shows called the Final Countdown. Now this particular show took place back on the 31st of July, but it was not uploaded on their YouTube channel until a few days later. So that's how they do things in Gatoh Move, so don't ask me why. But as always, when it comes to, you know, opening up the show, Mei Shiruga does her usual thing where she performs her own theme song. She's accompanied by both Miya and her sister Nonoka, and along with Chiko Shikawa. And then, of course, Mei gets involved in a exhibition match with a brand new trainee wrestler named Kaho. Now, they never explain much about her background, like how tall she is, but looking at her, I feel like she is a junior high school or maybe elementary. I could be wrong. But, however, this was one of those matches where, of course, she has to showcase who she is and for the fans to get to know her a little bit. But, unfortunately, this match ended in a time limit draw after 3 minutes. But I'm sure we will see her more often in Choco Pro as always, but we'll see what happens. Now our first official match we have, of course, is a 6-woman tag match, or no, 6-person tag match. We have Hiroyi Yawada, Iri Kane, and of course Miya Yatsuba. They take on Lee Yoneyama Macau, Chonchiru, and Makoto. Now I don't know what Makoto calls herself when it comes to teaming up with them, but however, you probably would guess that most of the other team, of course, Hiroyi, Iri, and Miya, they're all less experienced wrestlers. That plays out in a very deciding factor. But as always, when it comes to someone who knows how to pick up a good win, it was Lee or should I say Kaori Yoneyama, who actually picked up the win with an O'Connor roll onto Iri, and just like that, it was completely over. Now our next match, we have Chiko Shikawa. She teams up with Sayaka Obihiro, or we just call her Obi. They take on Tokiko Kirihara, and of course, one of the most dangerous wrestlers in deathmatch wrestling history, Rina Yamashita. Now, of course, you would think that, with Rina in the mix, this was going to be a bit more violent. It would have been that so, but it did not. But, however, it was Obi who picked up a very fantastic win on tour when she applied a roll-up, and just like that, it was over. Excuse me. Now, our next match, we have a very interesting 8-man tag match. Team number 1, we got the boss of Gambaria Pro, Ken Oka, Antonio Honda, Minoru Fujita, and Ryuichi Sekine. They take on Sayaka, Balinaki, Maho, and of course Chris Brooks. So we often see Chris Brooks and Sayaka team up, since they represent, of course, Bakagaiji and friends. You probably would say there's going to be a lot of confusion going around in this match. But of course, now we often see Antonio Honda when it comes to, does his funny story segments during the match. Well, we saw the same thing with Sayaka. Somehow she picked up a few tricks or so, and I applaud her for that, because, how many times we get fooled by Honda all the time, but it worked in their favor. But in the end, it was Chris Brooks who picked up the win onto Honda, and just like that, it was over. So, a fantastic win over them. Now, our next match, we have Miyuki Takase taking on Mei Shiruga. Now, this is going to be a tough challenge. Now, this is not a high speedster, you would mess, but however, Mei is a high speedster because she's very crafty, very methodical. Not to mention, she likes to play a little bit dirty, but in this case, you would think so. But Miyuki Takase, she is one of the most strongest individuals I ever watched, but she was able to pick up a win when she applied like a somewhat of a twisty suplex. I'm not sure yet, but it was able to put her away. Now, our main event is the Asian Dream Tag Team titles. We have Mizuki and Saki teaming up. They both face against the current champions, Masahiro Takanashi and Emi Sakura. Now, of course, we have seen Emi and Masa. They are a very strong, capable duo. But the real question does tell, could they hold on to it? Well, there was a bit of a interesting moment, of course. But however, it was Mizuki who picked up the win when she no, it was Saki who picked up the win when she applied a dropping knee strap onto, of course, onto Masa to pick up the win and allowing for her to become the, of course, her and Mizuki brand new Asian Dream Tag Team Champions. Now, it's not the first time she actually won the belt. She actually won this belt once before with Yuna Mizumori, but as you all know where she is now, she is in Stardom. But in the end, you probably see Masa and Emi are bitch slapping each other, trying to blame each other who's at fault losing the belts. But that's how things are. I mean, we've seen it many times when it comes to tag teams, but I thought it was funny, and then they end the show with the promo. So I'm pretty sure there will be more, but we are yet to hear from when they will be making their way to Korakuen. That is something that we will have to wait and see. But for now, we'll end things here with this one and move on with New Japan. Okay, New Japan Pro Wrestling. We are now in day 11 of the G1 Climax. And I believe we are halfway through. But I think many of us are trying to figure out who could most likely walk out as the block winners and make it all the way to the finals. Now, for me, I look at Zack Sabre Jr. as one of the few, but we'll see how that goes. But we'll get to that. Now, our first match, we have a bit of an United Empire showdown. We have the young and exciting Talman Newman taking on the current KOPW champion Great Khan. Now, of course, you would think that they're not going to hold back because they're in the same team. Of course not. I mean, this is just way too important for anybody. We just recently saw Henare versus Cobb on day 10. But it would make absolute sense. But unfortunately for Cal Newman, he was unable to succeed thanks to Great Khan when he applied the Eliminator, giving him his next 2 points. So currently, he now has 6 points. As for Newman, 4. So any moment at this time, Newman could be the one be eliminated first in the block, but we will see how that progresses. Now, we just witnessed one showdown within their own faction in New Japan. We have the same thing with the War Dogs. We have Gabe Kidd versus Jake Lee. Now, many of you would be surprised. The fans were voting for Gabe Kidd for obvious reasons. Reason is, nobody likes Jake Lee. I mean, look, Jake Lee, he came from All Japan Pro Wrestling. Then he made his way to Noah. And then he screwed them recently to come to New Japan. So, who would want to be fans with him? But, however, I think people would probably prefer Gabe Kidd than Jake Lee. But, however, we know that Gabe Kidd, he is a strong SOB. He thinks that he is the shit. You know, he thinks that he's the man. That he thinks that he is the true of what Antonio Inoki is all about. But, however, he was not the smartest because Jake Lee outsmarted him by defeating him in a countout. So, basically, a win's a win. But, in the end, it was the smartest person who walked out, and unfortunately, that person was none other than, of course, Jake Lee. So Jake Lee and Gabe Kidd are currently tied with 6 points, but we will see how things will progress. Now, this particular match, I have to say, is one of my favorite ones because these guys have gone back and forth. We're talking about Zack Sabre Jr. and Evil. Now, if you guys haven't forgotten, Zack Sabre Jr. played out against Evil during the New Japan World Television title tournament. And of course, he used the Young Lions at the time, Kosa Fujita and Rohei Oiwa, I believe. But nonetheless, it was effective. Now, however, Evil is not the kind of person who will play that game twice. So, he actually, in fact, caught Zack Sabre Jr. in the back. And then he had, of course, the so-called spoiler, Dick, get involved. As always, he threw powder in his eyes. But he tried to pin him. But unfortunately, this match ended in 19 seconds flat. And Zack Sabre Jr. won. Evil looked more like you, like what happened? Yeah, he looks like with his head cut off, like a chicken with his head cut off, not knowing what just happened. And then of course, Evil, who is livid, he decided to go in the post match. The chase Owens everywhere. Zack all over the damn place, getting even with them. I mean, come on, Evil deserved what he got. Nobody wants it because right now, Evil has lost 2 consecutive matches. So I believe that makes it 5 wins and 2 losses. Same thing with Zack Sabre Jr. So now he's on the board. Most likely he could be in the lead because of the losses that he just had, Evil just had. So, but yeah. So I'm not gonna do the math on it because that's what I was thinking. So basically, there are those that believe that Zack Sabre Jr. could be the one person to walk out as the winner of the G1. But as I said, we will just have to wait and see. Now, our next match, we have Shota Umino versus Tetsuya Naito. So you would all think that Naito would walk out since he is the current champion. Possibly yes, but Shota Umino has determined, tried to become the ace that he claims that he wants to be. But unfortunately, that did not do any well for him because, of course, we know that Shota would pay attention to the fact that there's only one main weapon that Naito has, and that is, of course, Destino, and that did not do any favors for him at all. But it was, of course, the inside cradle that finished off, giving Naito his next 2 points with the total of 8, and of course, Shota remains with 6. Now, our main event, these guys know each other too well. They have teamed up together in tag team action. They were one, of course, we have Sanada versus Shingo Takagi. Now, it's no secret that Sanada was a member of LIJ back in the day. He has teamed up in World Tag League with Shingo. So it makes you think that Shingo will be well aware of every playbook that, of course, Sanada would do. And I'm sure Sanada would do the same thing too. So these are guys that know each other too well. So the question does tell who will walk out as the winner. But I saw that Sanada tried the deadfall many times. That didn't do so well. Of course, he tried the Shining Wizard, which is a move that he learned from Keiji Muto, the great Muta himself. But it was no effect. But of course, one last deadfall, it became the deciding factor, allowing for Sanada to pick up the win. So he leaves out with a total of 8 points, while Shingo lasts up to 6. So we're currently right now are halfway through, but we will see. But as I said before, Zack Sabre Jr. could most likely win. But the real question, can anybody try to stop him? We just wait and see it as well. And I think that's pretty much it right now with New Japan. I believe it's time for NXT. We are now in week 2 of the Great American Bash. Now, it opened up with Pete Dunne versus Trick Williams. Now, as you all know, Trick Williams is doing whatever it takes to find a solution to get his NXT belt back due to the fact that Weasel, Ethan Page, refuses to give him a rematch. So he tried many ways, and Pete Dunne thinks he's a nuisance. But here's the way I see it in this match. I don't think Trick Williams ever dealt with a guy like Pete Dunne. I mean, the guy is very methodical and very dangerous in the ring. So, you probably would think Trick will try to overcome it. But no, he did not. He ended up getting pinned, and Pete Dunne won this match. However, later on, we did witness those two come across each other when Pete Dunne was giving his little backstage interview, and then Trick Williams attacked him. So this war between both Dunne and Trick is far from over. Now, in order to celebrate the Great American Bash, you cannot do that without a barbecue. I mean, we've been seeing that the entire time, and it was hosted by Hank and Tank. Now, we did see, of course, Alexis King, who was on the DJ, thinking that enough with this EDM hippy dippy BS. It's time for real rock. So, and then of course, Eddie Thorpe shows up, and this and that. And then Mr. Stone and Stevie Turner decided to do a little food competition. Who can eat the most? We've been seeing that a lot, but we'll get to that more. Now, of course, Ethan Page, as you know, he's being a little cocky. However, Nathan Frazier told him, good luck. But he told him he doesn't need the luck. But, of course, even though he got pinned for the 3 count, chances are it could happen again. But Ethan Page reminded him where his tag partner is. So, he was nowhere to be found. So, that was the top of discussion. Now, our next match, this is one of 3 championship match. We have the Women's North American title. Kalani Jordan defends her belt against a very strange, odd individual, but Booker T likes to call her weird, Tatum Paxley. Now, you would think that maybe this would be the end of Kalani Jordan's title reign. No, she was able to withstand her, but at the same time, we'd see Wendy Chu was there too, as well. But, however, it did not stop, of course, Kalani Jordan to prove once again why this belt needs to be prestige. She defeated her by applying a frog splash, and that was the end of it. However, during the post-match, Wendy Chu decided to comfort Tatum Paxley, and then, of course, giving the look to Kalani Jordan like this is not over. But something kind of odd happened. Wendy Chu choked Tatum Paxley, and I don't know what's that all about, but, however, I wouldn't be surprised if Wendy Chu becomes the next opponent that challenged Kalani Jordan for the match. But we do know that Fallon Henley, Jay-Z Jane, and Jasmine Nix are determining to prove that rookies like Kalani Jordan didn't deserve to be there. But sooner or later, something is going to happen. Now, of course, Quarter Catch Crew are currently 1 person short. Tavion Heights is currently in Japan doing the N1 Victory Tour. Of course, they were confronted by the D'Angelo family, so they gave them a little interesting stipulation that Wen Sinclair will be in a match later. If Ren Sinclair wins the match, Dempsey gets an opportunity of the Heritage Cup match. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, as I saw before, we saw Nathan Frazier. He's trying to find, of course, Axiom. He doesn't know where the hell he's at. Well, Axiom showed up. He told him that he just gave him a little space because of, him not happy with the whole speed thing. But it seems like they're worked out their issue. But we'll see where that leads us from there. Now, our next match, we have the NXT title, Ora Menza versus Ethan Page. Now, of course, Ora Menza is not only doing this because he wants to, he's doing it also for Noam Dar. Now, if you guys remember, Noam Dar made a play for the NXT title when Trick Williams was still a champion, but someone intentionally attacked Noam Dar, and of course, suspect number 1 was none other than suspected was Trick Williams. Lash Legend said that it wasn't him, and of course, Mensa was attacked, and turns out it was Ethan Page who was behind it. So Ora Mensa hasn't forgotten. So you would think that Ora Mensa will have the opportunity, but he did not. Apparently, Ethan Page was able to apply the Ego's Edge and ended right there. But also, he decided to rename NXT into NX Me. So we'll see where that goes from there. Now, of course, ahead of their main event, MSK, Wesley, and Zachary Wentz are prepared to get another opportunity of the tag titles, which some titles that did not lose to begin with. But we'll see what happens. Now, back to the barbecue by Hank and Tank. We did see several ladies of the NXT locker room talking about who will be the next opponent. We have Soruka, Lola Vice, and of course Jada Parker. And then they were interrupted by Adonis out of nowhere. And then of course some guy who got his ass whooped not too long ago when his face got kicked in by Karm Petrovic got in the face of all 3 ladies, and then he got powerbombed through a table. Now, of course, Hank and Tank made a rule, no fighting. But they let it slide because, let's call him dumbass. He got himself into some dumb stuff, and he got what he deserved. So, let's leave it like that. Now, our next match. This feud has been going on since he first arrived. Joe Hendry takes on Joe Coffey. Now, Joe Coffey, as you know, he's been calling Joe Hendry a fake Scottish because, as you know, Joe Hendry is from Scotland, but they don't consider him the way he looks as a Scottish. They consider himself, along with his Gallus brethren, Wolfgang and his brother Mark, as true Scottish, also with Drew McIntyre. However, Joe was able to, have a little concert last week, and he got himself attacked. So this is what this lets the match. However, of course, Joe Hendry knows he's outgunned, knowing that, of course, Mark and Wolf were right there. But however, Joe Hendry outsmarted them by pulling an Eddie. Now, those who know that term, you know what I'm talking about. Those who don't, that means he pulled out a little trick out of the playbook of Eddie Guerrero, where they took the blame for something that they didn't do. And of course, the referee saw that. Well, they didn't see that he got hurt, but they saw it and they were kicked out. Of course, Joe Coffey cannot believe it. But you would think that Joe Coffey, without Gallus by his side, it wouldn't be a fair battle. But however, Joe Hendry overcome it by applying the standing ovation, and just like that. But we do know that Joe Hendry will be making multiple appearances in NXT, and I think many people have often say he is a star in the making. So we will see what happens down the road. But of course, we do know that Gallus were not too pleased how this thing lost. Even Joe Coffey, he is so pissed. So we'll see where that goes. Now, of course, last week we did see Thea Hale. She had an amazing match, but she felt disappointed that she did not win the title she's always longed for, which is the NXT Women's title. However, we did see Rich Holland decided to pull one last favor, and that favor, of course, is for Chase. You get another shot of the NXT Tag Team titles. Whoever walks out between MXK and versus Frazier and Axiom, they get a shot. And of course, Rich Holland decided to volunteer to team up with Chase to prove himself that he belongs there. And of course, Duke was a little, well, what? So we'll see what happens in that world. Now, back to the barbecue. Of course, we see Spears and Jensen talking and all this, but Tank and Tang told them no fighting. So that's the whole thing. However, Mr. Stone and Stevie were in fact still a little full from eating all that food. But the ladies decided that someone has to step up to face Roxanne. So they decided, how about a multi-women's Rumble match or so. But we'll see where that goes from there. But however, the party was interrupted by the OC. They were calling their food garbage and all this other stuff. But Hank and Tack decided, party's over, so there was a fight. I wouldn't be surprised if we do see Hank and Tank take on the OC, so that's something we can expect. Now, our next match, we have Ren Sinclair versus Kendall Gray. Now, we do know in the past Kendall Gray suplexed Miles Bourne, but however, this is a match where, of course, Ren Sinclair has to win in order for Charlie Dempsey to get another shot of the NXT Heritage Cup, which she did when she defeated Kendall Gray. So we will see what happens. I'm sure that Dempsey is grateful for Ren to step up her plate. I'm sure he doesn't like the fact that she's there, but if I was Dempsey, think of her as a lucky charm in some capacity. Now, our main event, the NXT Tag Team titles. Man, what a match. I mean, a lot of high spots for everyone to see. I mean, unbelievable. But, however, we do know that this match ended with, of course, a very interesting thing. There was some miscues coming. But, however, it was the golden ratio that put away Wes Lee by Axiom, and 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, the post-match, that is something that I did not expect. Now, initially we thought when you look at it, it looked like Trey Miguel was about to betray Wesley or something, but Wesley super kicked Trey, and then Zach was saying, "What are you doing?" And then Wesley kicked him in the groin, and then he tells him that you left me all alone. So he was beating up both Trey Miguel, and of course Zach Grewens. But so basically, this was one of those plot twists. People thought Trey was going to do it, but nope, it was Wesley. But we will see what happens this coming Thursday in TNA and next week on NXT regarding the Rascals. So we'll end things here with NXT, and I believe we'll move on with our last and final thing, news updates. So welcome to our news updates. So let's begin with upcoming events with the promotion, starting with GCW as always. Now, as you know, we have the homecoming event happening at August 24th and the 25th. Well, on night 1 on August 24th, it was announced that Drew Parker will be facing off against Nick Gage. And then, of course, later on the September 14th in Detroit, this is a new show. It's just been announced or something. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it. It's called Bad One. It will be taking place in Detroit. They announced Too Tough Tony will be there. And then, of course, we have the Rochester event on the following day on the 15th of September. Matt Cardona will be there for the G Code. So that's pretty much it. And then, as you all know, GCW will be making their way back to Hartford, Connecticut for back-to-back on the 21st of September. So no announcements yet who will be involved, but we'll get closer and closer to that. Now, for this coming Tuesday on TNA, we did know that Joe Hendry will be in action to take on Wolfgang of Gallus. So that's going to be a real fun one to watch. And then, of course, Kitsune Women's Wrestling for their San Diego show here in San Diego for Love My Show. It was announced we're going to have a tag match. Nagisa Nozaki will team up with Yuna Manaze, making their debut, taking on Aspen Rose and Delmi Exo. For the House of Glory show in Chicago on September 5th, we have the Crown Jewel champion Zilla Fatu will be in action. And then, of course, finally, as you know, on September 21st here in San Diego, West Coast Pro will have the San Diego Showdown. They announced a match between Jordan Cruz versus Beef. So that's pretty much what's going on in the upcoming events. Now for some developments. As you know, recently NWA has been signing certain wrestlers. They just announced that they signed Tom Latimer, so he'll be sticking by. Now, as you all know, remembered, Stephanie Valkyr has dropped one of the belts that she had. One of them is, of course, the CML Women's World Tag Team titles with Zeuxis. Apparently, the CML just crowned brand new champions. That is Tessa Blanchard and Yuvia. They defeated, of course, Zeuxis and a brand new person named Persephone. I don't know who she is, but yes. Fightful Select reports that Josh Alexander will be taking crossovers between TNA and NXT. Something as what we're seeing with Joe Hendry, so that's most likely what we do see. Unfortunately, in Japan, Kaori Yoneyama, or you guys know her as Fukigen Death, she's just torn an ACL. She's going to be out of action for the rest of the year. There's going to be a decision regarding her future. We don't know for sure if this is a career ending for her. That's something we don't want to hear, but we'll just stay close to it as much as possible. Now, you may have heard Nigel McGuinness, the same guy who talks nonsense on AEW, especially his feud towards Bryan Danielson, has announced that he is going to make his own retirement things. Basically, he's trying to do what Bryan Danielson is doing. I pulled some of that information out. Yes, here it is. Yes, so apparently he said, I got a dozen more matches in me. It's just that. Injunctions in my life with so much talent in AEW, it's not my time. Unless, of course, there's a chance to prove I'm better than Bryan Danielson. And he spoke about this with Sports Illustrated, so I'm sure Bryan Danielson, has something to say. However, speaking of Bryan Danielson, he reveals about opening up working with Shane McMahon. As you know, we know about Shane his meeting with Tony Khan, and this is what he said about opening the idea. I'm open to working with anybody. I don't have a beef with anybody 100%. It was interesting because Tony mentioned me after the photo came out. I didn't want to tell you this before I met Shane. I didn't say this because I was like, yeah, I know the picture is everywhere. So basically, he wasn't upset about it or anything, but he's cool with the idea of everything. So yeah. But he did stated something else, like Bryan Danielson talk about how he likes working with Tony Khan. This is what he said. He never had he said he never had a boss like him. Tony Khan is super kind. He's super kind human being. I haven't had a boss like that. I had great relationship with Vince and with Hunter when I was with Ring of Honor. Great relation. I had a great relationship with Gabe Skapowski. None of them were particularly kind. That's been refreshing. I mean, you can say about how many bosses you had. I mean, it didn't matter what kind of job. I mean, I had plenty of supervisors. Every last one of them, I did enjoy working them. Some who I did not like because of certain things I did not, you know what I mean. But yes. Now, more information was coming out, as you know, about Britt Baker. A few things now. With those who know this, by the time this video is out, you already probably know the answer. Britt Baker will be making her return to AEW. However, certain people were talking about this. Why was not MJF suspended because of this situation that took place? And this is what they were. This is what we were told, and this was it. Baker was allegedly burying Ospreay versus MJF on Dynamite, something which Atut had informed MJF about. Baker reported accused Atut of being a snitch, and she was going to get her to kick her out of the locker room. MJF reported approached the women's locker room and asked if he could enter to speak with Baker. Following this walk very, very far down the hallway, he hit the wall. As a report, Ospreay was the first person to speak with Baker and ask her why she's starting these issues. So basically, you can tell that MJF was not happy with what Britt Baker was saying, but at the same time, you look at Ospreay, who's trying to reason with her, like, what is your problem? I mean, I like how Ospreay is approaching this. Like, look, we don't need this kind of crap. And I have to say, Ospreay is more compassionate. Everybody's like trying to be the peacemaker. I mean, we've seen those type of people in the wrestling business in the locker room, but there's that too. But however, we'll learn more about that at some point. But however, another thing has come around. You may know this. It was announced that Britt Baker has been cast for Cobra Kai. So basically, she will be appearing on that a lot. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Now, those who know this, Anna Jay has been, will be appearing this month for the 5-star Grand Prix. The first person to give her the welcoming mat was none other than Saori Anou. However, Anna Jay kind of responded to what she had to say, and this is what she said. Let's see. This is what, of course, Saori Anou said to Anna Jay. Nice to meet you. I am Saori Anou from Stardom. I am your 5-star opening round opponent. I have been studying you a lot, Anna. If I win, I'll treat you to a nice coffee and sandwich. I'm looking forward to meeting you. Well, that's a good way to open up the ice right there. So, yes, Anna Jay's first opponent will be against Saori Anou. So that's going to be a match you don't want to miss out. So I think that's pretty much it with all of our news updates. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, as you know, we have AEW Dynamite. We also got more with the G1 by New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I believe we are doing B block matches only. So we will focus on that. If there's any other events that I might do, I'll see what I can do from there. I know there's some I haven't caught up with, but we'll get to that at some point. But for right now, we'll leave things as it is and move forward from there. So until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.